in Brasilia, slightly about a week and a half ago. It was a quite interesting experience. I visited at least about 7 or 8 monuments built by Oscar Namia, and some of the gardens built by Bruno Marx. Very interesting experience. These were buildings built in early 1960s, late 50s, early 1960s. And some of these buildings are really beautiful, timeless gems. And you can, when you stand there, you can feel that some of the Malaysian buildings were influenced by Oscar Namia. For instance, when I stood at the Foreign Ministry building, Itamara Chief's building, the open veranda gives you a view of the National Mosque. I look at the Brazilian presidential residence. The facade has a bit of the facade of our Parliament House. So the influence are there. And the buildings are timeless, really timeless gem. But I came away with the impressions, 2 impressions. The first one not so serious. Yeah, I spent 4 years in Canberra. I visited Brasilia. I came away with this idea that luckily, until now, I have not worked a day in Putrajaya. For your information, Ministry of Defence and Ministry of Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industries are both, MITI and MINDEF are both in Kuala Lumpur. So far I have not worked a day in Putrajaya. But on a more serious note, Brasilia was an experiment where architects make their names. Architects experimented ideas and left a legacy. I somehow feel that in Malaysia, we do not have, or we have, but yet our public buildings have not celebrated our architect as much as, say, for example, in Brazil or in many other places. Of course, if you look back, Lai Chi-kian in his book documented the Merdeka monuments. The Parliament House, University of Malaya, the now demolished Old Subang Airport, the National Museum, Angkasa Puri, the National Museum, or National Mosque. Some of these monuments were clearly a testimony of the adventure that our architects took in the early 60s, the international style, the clear departure from colonial buildings. But still, I think it is time for us as a nation to celebrate more of our architects. The government, whether we should have some more practicing architects in JKR, perhaps JKR should perhaps have more architects actually practicing. We should have more GLC, GLIC committed to celebrate Malaysian architecture and committed to give opportunity and provide the presence of Malaysian architecture. We should start doing a lot more competition. Through my small effort with Lokman, we try the RTS has a competition and selected part of the project through a competition. Architect Farid is working with the Klong MP, Wong Suki, on the old Klong market, redeveloping the Klong market. But as a government or across the country, authorities across the country, I think we need to do more in order to create more competition and more opportunity to present Malaysian architecture. Now, I assure you that I write my own speech. So the second part of my speech is not written because you will know why. I respond to the initial part of tonight. The initial gambit of this dinner was to talk about saving our heritage. I want to give it a twist. I want to challenge some of your ideas. In your idea that was presented, I think you're still thinking of turning those heritage buildings into museum, into cafe, into hotel, into motel. You're perhaps still thinking that Kuala Lumpur, the old part of Kuala Lumpur, the heritage part of Kuala Lumpur, should be visited by tourists. But perhaps we should think more radically. Perhaps we should rethink our urban model. We should rethink our urban model, and you have an opportunity. I think I want to challenge the new president and prime members. They are going to host Union of International Architects. This is the Olympic of architecture. It is an opportunity to do more than just an event. It is an opportunity for us to rethink about Kuala Lumpur and rethink about how we build our city and how we shape our city. Malaysia, for the longest of time, has a very ambivalent attitude towards city. We as a nation, we are very ambivalent towards the idea of city. There are several reasons. The first reason was because many of our architects initially were influenced by the British architecture. And in British urban planning, they always treat cities with respect. So the idea of garden city is you try to get the best of city and then try to stay away from city. Try to maintain some fantastic rural life in a garden city. And way back in the 50s, Petaling Jaya was developed on the basis that Kuala Lumpur is very congested. Okay, think about this. In our urban planning idea, we always treat cities with respect. We don't think that cities should have more people. So we moved city away, created Petaling Jaya, and then in the 70s we created Subang Jaya, and subsequently it's a proliferation of suburbs. By then, we took on an American lifestyle. We became American before we got rich. So we started using private car. We started building highways. And we started sprawling our city to 50, 100 kilometers away and still call it Kuala Lumpur. So I think it's time for us to rethink all this model. It is time for us to rethink this model for a few reasons. One other reason, let me say this. One other reason is our experience as a people. Up until 1980, only 35% of Malaysian populations are in urban areas. Only 15% of Malay population was urban population back in 1980. However, today, we are 80% urban as a people, and among Malay population, 75% are urban people. We have moved a long way as a society, as a nation. We are now essentially an urban people. Now, why do we have to change the model? We have to change the model for many reasons. Part of the problem is the symptom of dilapidated heritage building, and forgotten city centers. That is one of the reasons, but that is a symptom. We also face with a climate crisis. Malaysia, 37% of Malaysia's carbon emission comes from transport. Compared to many other countries, industry usually is the largest, or energy generation is the largest. But ours, energy generation the largest, followed by transport because of our American lifestyle. And now we face a challenge. We face a fiscal challenge. For several years, almost 20% of the federal budget goes to fuel subsidy, diesel and RON 95. So we have a challenge. We live an American lifestyle before we got rich, therefore we have subsidy, and resulted in a fiscal crisis. And we also have a situation where there are inequality, and this inequality within the society is difficult to bridge. We have young people who cannot afford houses, cannot afford a place to stay, and young people, young families, middle-aged family have to travel 50 to 100 kilometers each day in order to get to work. So, and we are going to face an aging society very soon. We are going to face an aging society without much social support and with people living in suburbs, difficult to connect, with no public transport and with very little social support. I mean, these are the challenges that we are going to face. But as I say, because you have a golden opportunity of organizing Union of International Architects, why don't take this as a challenge? Take this as a challenge to reimagine Kuala Lumpur. To reimagine Kuala Lumpur so that we can bring people back into the city. How do we ensure that the 15,000 people that are going to work in 118, especially those who are earning less than 5,000 ringgit per month, they don't have to stay very far. They can stay within walking distance to 118. How do we tap into the potential of old buildings? Potential of buildings that are only 40 years old but look very old. One of these is potentially a Maybank building. How do we transform them? How do we transform them so that we can bring in 20,000, 30,000 young people within the next 2 years? We need capital. We need perhaps some W forgetting about their suburban project and move back into the city. We need the developer, we need the house owner, we need the building owners, we need the architects and urban planner to understand that if we can transform Kuala Lumpur, we become a grown-up nation. We become a grown-up nation because we can handle city, we can handle urban living, we can make Kuala Lumpur a place where we are proud of. And by extension, if Kuala Lumpur is very well run, we can create, for instance, a second economic capital in Greater Johor Bahru. We can be very proud of other cities and let other cities flourish as well. Because at the moment, we have this psychological sense that Kuala Lumpur has to be dispersed and no other places should have great cities in this country. So we need to change that mindset, and I look to you, the architects, to bring about this change. Just a bit of advertisement. I am coming out with a book called Second Takeoff, Strategies for Malaysia's Resurgence. I think we are starting a journey. We are starting a journey because globally things have changed a lot. And domestically, we have a government led by Dr. Sri Anwar, which has a purpose. The purpose is to bring about the second takeoff of the Malaysian economy. The purpose is to recreate a Malaysian Renaissance. And the Malaysian Renaissance will have to happen in the city, will have to depend on you, the architects, to bring about this change. And I look to you for transformative change in Kuala Lumpur, in other major cities in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the inspiring speech.